Hi guys, welcome to our live event. Are you guys excited for Valentine's Day? Woo! So I have some ideas for you guys involving these heart pom-poms. I'm going to show you how to make the heart pom-pom, and then I'm going to kind of show you some of the other ideas that I had, ways that you can use them besides the obvious, right? This would be the obvious, at least to me, this is the obvious, is to take a hat and then add a pom-pom to the top. I just thought it was super cute to have this ridiculously oversized pom-pom on the top of this little baby hat. It's, for some reason, I just love doing that for baby hats. But I am going to be showing you how to make the pom-pom, how to get that little heart shape in there, and then different ways to think about incorporating, like when you're tying off the pom-pom, you should be thinking about if you need to add anything to that based on how you want to attach the pom-pom to something. And we'll get into that a little more later. That probably didn't make any sense, but just be thinking about that in your minds while you're watching this. Okay. So yes, this is a live event, so please say hello if you like. Tell me where you are crafting from. Tell me if you are working on any Valentine's Day presents for anybody, for yourself maybe. Maybe you just prefer the chocolate kind. But regardless, this is a fun craft project to work on. And it's great because you can use up scraps of stuff that you already have. You don't have to make them in the traditional red, white, pink, color schemes. You can make it however you like to. All right, so I love making pom-poms. It's no secret. I've talked about this before. I really love making pom-poms. And you'll see the magic of this pom-pom is just extra because when you cut it open, there's always that moment of like, oh, it's turning into a beautiful pom-pom. But this time you have a heart inside of it, and it's just like an extra, it feels like a surprise, even though you're the one who put it there. It shouldn't be a surprise, but it still is really cool. Okay, so you're gonna need a pom-pom maker for this. I'm using the Clover brand because this is my absolute favorite. It just feels really sturdy and easy to use, so that's why I'm using this kind. You can use other kinds if you have a different kind, that's totally fine. There is a little bit of extra thinking going on when you're placing the yarn for the first half of the pom-pom. So it's good to have a pom-pom maker that you're familiar with or something that's at least easy to use so you don't have to be thinking so much about the actual wrapping of the pom-pom, and you can just concentrate a little bit more on where you're putting the color, which I'll explain to you. Okay, so to start this out, I'm gonna pull open my pom-pom maker. So I've got half of it here, the other half is tucked away here. So I'm going to leave that closed for now. We're just going to concentrate on the first half. So I'm going to make a pom-pom that's the same color scheme as this version here. So the heart is going to be that sort of pinkish red color, and then we're going to do that sort of bluish gray background color as well. So we're going to start out with the color that you want the heart to be. And take a look at your pom-pom maker. If there are little lines on it, dividing it up, that is very helpful, but I will also just kind of show you some different points to be looking at. So my pom-pom maker is divided into 6 sections per side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And normally when I'm making a heart, I'm really concentrating on the thirds of this. So sections, so here's 1 and 2, I'm thinking about this, and then I'm thinking about this. Okay, so these 2 lines right here, those are dividing this half of the pom-pom maker into thirds. So there's 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, if that makes sense. So that's how I'm gonna be kind of talking about this as I'm wrapping it. And I am going to be, if this is something where you wanna try and put a heart shape on both sides of your pom-pom, then you need to be sure which side is up. Otherwise, you're going to get a heart facing up, and then when you turn your pom-pom around, your heart might be facing down. So I would not recommend that for the first time that you do this. Just put a heart on the front of your pom-pom, and then you can decide, like, if you want to do that, if you want to try to put a heart on both sides of the pom-pom, like if you, for example, this pom-pom just has a heart on one side, there's nothing on the back, and that, to me, that's just fine. But I just thought I'm just anticipating there might be a question about that later. So if you are planning on putting a heart on both sides, you need to know which side is up. So you're gonna need to mark that or keep track of that in your mind somehow. I'm not gonna do that because I'm just putting a heart on one side of my pom-pom, just to keep it simple. Okay, so we're actually gonna start out with the background color for a minute here. And I'm going to be wrapping my yarn around at that third. Remember how I talked about the thirds? So we're gonna wrap starting at this third here. I'm gonna wrap it a couple times till I know this is gonna stay. There we go. And I'm gonna be wrapping just this third first, the third first, just this section of it, the first third of this half of the pom-pom. How's that for a little math? Don't worry, this doesn't involve math. This involves eyeballing, okay? So we're looking at just this third here. And what I wanna do, if I'm looking at it this way, what I wanna do is I wanna build up some thickness from this point upward, okay? So see how my crochet hook is kind of angling up to the side? Instead of it being flat like this, I wanna build up some thickness up here. So I'm going to start close to, I'm gonna call this the bottom of where I'm wrapping. See how I'm just a little above the edge of where I've already wrapped, and then I'm going to go towards this side. And back down, but not quite as far down as we went before. And we're gonna sort of work our way back down, but again, not quite as far as, like every time we wrap downward, meaning in this direction, we're gonna stop a little bit before we did last time. So I'll show you what the side of this looks like in just a second. Okay. So if you take a look at this, what's happening here is now we have this angle. See, from the side of my hook here, it's angling, it's getting wider up here and over here. Okay, so we have it kind of angling as we go from this point, which is pretty narrow, and then we're adding more wraps as we go further up. Okay, and then we're gonna stop at this point. Just kind of hang on to that yarn for a minute. And then we're gonna start with the red. Let me get the edge of my, okay. So now we're going to be concentrating on this middle third here. So this is, you know, the section between here and up to here. So I'll just start wrapping. And we're gonna go all the way over to, there's a notch right there, but this is just imagine, here's a third, sorry, here's a third, here's a third, and here's the final third, which we're not working on quite yet. Okay, so now we have like one layer here, and I'm gonna wrap back up in this direction. And now we've gotten to the point where the gray starts, but we want to overlap the gray with the red. So we're going to go up a little ways, maybe about right here, not quite to the halfway point along this third, but we are extending, see how I'm wrapping over the gray? We're kind of wrapping up to that point where it gets nice and thick, where the gray gets nice and thick. All right, now we're just gonna fill this in. But the goal here with the red is, again, we want it to be narrow down here and be thicker up here. So I'm just wrapping, and this time when I come closer to the bottom, bottom meaning this side. I'm not going to go all the way to where I had stopped before. I'll stop just a little before and work my way back up toward that gray. And working back downward, stopping a little, even now a little sooner than I did last time. So every time we kind of wrap back down here, before it was down here, then we stopped about here, now we're stopping about here. And now I'm going to be concentrating most of my wrapping kind of up in this area. This is where I want the most of the thickness to be. The most of the thickness. I want it to be the thickest up there, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, now I want to show you what's happening when we look at the side. So see how it's narrowest down here, it's narrower and it kind of comes out to the side. And then the thickest part is right through here and up even a little bit into this as well. But it's not, the thickest part is right here. That's the thickest part, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's about what that should look like. And I know this seems like, the first time you do this, you're gonna be like, is this even gonna work? This does not seem like it's gonna work, but it does. And once you know, it may take you once or twice to like fully understand what's happening while you're doing it, but it'll make more sense after the first couple times that you make these pom-poms and cut them open and see what's happening. Okay, now is the easy part. We're just going to fill in everything with the gray. Okay, so we're going to fill in that bottom third that we've neglected thus far. And we're going to continue working up here. We're going to go over all of the red. We're just going over everything at this point. Lots of wrapping here. And it can even add a little more to the top because it's a little flat. But basically we're just completing this side, filling it in as best as we can with that kind of grayish color or the background color. So I find that making pom-poms, it helps if you have a squishy yarn, so you can tie that knot really tight. It's pretty hard to do this with a cotton because it's just not very lofty. So I usually recommend doing this with an acrylic or wool, something that's squishy. Okay, so that seems pretty good. We've filled in that side of it. I'm gonna cut this end off and we're going to tuck that away into our pom-pom maker for now, and now we're going to open up the other side. And this side, so this is what I meant, okay, this is what I meant when you have to know which side is up if you're going to add a heart to the other side. So this is the top of our heart. It's close to the hinge where this is attached. So you need this to be the top of your pom-pom. So when you've closed this, this would be the top of your heart here. So if you wanted to make another heart shape on the back, you need to think about this as being the top of your heart. So this is where you put that little wedge where you first start. This is the gray part, and then this is the red part, and then you fill in here and fill in everything. Now, if you're like, you lost me there, don't worry about it. Just make a heart on one side of your pom-pom, and then you can get into that more advanced two-heart pom-pom later, if you're excited about that. Okay, so this side, we're just filling it in with whatever background color. That's all we're doing. I remember the first time I used one of these pom-pom makers, I was like, what? I don't understand what's happening. And then I cut it open, and I was just like, it was just so fun to see it sprawling open once you cut it open with the scissors. I mean, that's fun to do, even if you do it like the cardboard method or other methods, but for some reason, this pom-pom maker just made it easier to make a very full and fluffy pom-pom, and it was just very exciting. Oh, it looks like we got a bunch of comments here. Hello to Barbara and Georgia from San Antonio, and Jill saying hi from South Carolina. Hi, Jill. We've got a couple more hellos, and hello from Mountaintop, Pennsylvania. I'm excited to be here. I'm glad you're here, Ida. Lots of hellos. A hello from Indiana from Cindy, and Wendy is saying hello, tuning in from Chile, Connecticut. And Dawn is here. Hello, all you beautiful people. Hello, Dawn. Oh, and Cindy's here. Yes, she says this is a cheery idea to take pom-poms to a new level. And hello from Central Pennsylvania. Oh, Dawn is making amigurumis for her grands. Cute. That's awesome. Okay. How did I do? I wasn't even looking at this side. Pretty good. I have one kind of random loop there, but that's okay. We'll cut that off. So that's what happens when you're reading the comments and you should be wrapping your pom-pom. Okay, so one thing I noticed about making these heart pom-poms is that it helps to keep your heart in like a neat and tidy shape if your pom-pom is pretty full. So, you know, sometimes we make pom-poms and we don't mind them being kind of wispy or, you know, extra floofy without as much, like a little more airspace around each piece of yarn, if that makes sense. Not quite as dense. But I found that when I was making these, that the heart just had a neater, tidier shape and would want to kind of like, the pieces of the yarn would stay in the right place a little better if I made them fairly full, fairly dense, I guess. So that's something to keep in mind, something to think about. All right, so we wrapped that side. There we go. Now we're ready to cut our piece open. Before I do that, I'm gonna get my strand for tying ready. And I really like to use embroidery floss to tie my pom-poms. You can certainly use your yarn. I just find that the yarn tends to break sooner than the embroidery floss would. This is a very, very tough thing to tie your pom-pom with, so that's why I use embroidery floss. And then I use that to sew it to my hat usually. Sometimes it just depends on what I have laying around and how strong the yarn is that I'm using, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to use embroidery floss, but that's just, you know, if sometimes when you're tying your pom-pom, if your yarn breaks when you're doing it, it is very frustrating. So I like to avoid that. Okay, so here is the boring side. I think this is the boring side. Yep, here's the boring side. But it's still fun, right? See that pop open? And here's the exciting side. Here it comes. Okay, so that's what it looks like so far. We just need to tie it up and then kind of do a little haircut and a little tidying. But before I take this apart, I want to just kind of Because I know it's hard to imagine when you're wrapping it, like maybe it made no sense to you when I was like, oh, add a little more here, this should be thicker there. It's kind of like you just have to do it to fully understand. But before I tie this off, I just want to point out when we first wrapped that gray, when we first started on our pom-pom, what we were doing was we were wrapping this section right in here because we wanted that part of gray to come down and get a little wider, see, here, and then we added some more gray there. Then when we wrapped the red, we started out and we wanted it to angle like this. And that's why, because we wanted our heart to angle out and be the thickest through here, if that makes sense. And then we extended it up onto the gray a little bit so you could see that, you know, that little arrow of gray coming down into the top of the heart, if that makes sense. So just looking at that, it might help you when you're wrapping to be able to kind of visualize things. Okay, so you can use 2 strands or 1, doesn't matter. I'm going to be sewing this onto probably a hat later, so I want the string to be tied down here at the bottom because I'm probably going to sew it to the top of a hat like this, so I want the strings here on my heart when I'm done. So I'm going to bring my embroidery floss through and tie this as tight as I can. And bring it back up through the other way. So I like to wrap this around a couple of times and sort of tie it a little bit as I'm going to just sort of help. All right, and now back to the bottom of the heart. So this is the tip of the heart. This is where I really want my string to be, you know, to end up at the end here. So I'm going to tie this into a nice knot at the bottom. Okay, then I want to be careful not to cut that part. And then now here's the big reveal where we take the bits apart. I like to do these one side at a time because it just seems like it doesn't pull out. There we go. Doesn't pull, it's just not as hard to do, so I'll pull them out one at a time. And same for the back side here. And then I can pull the sides out. And so other pom-pom makers will work differently, but you'll just have to disassemble. And you can see it's a little bit of a shaggy mess here. This is what they look like when they first come out. They're not going to be perfect, but when you start trimming it down, it'll start looking a lot less shaggy. It'll look better. Okay, so we're going to give a little haircut here. Is this anybody else's favorite part of making a pom-pom? I don't know why I like this part so much, you guys. This is relaxing. And, you know, maybe part of me just likes making a huge mess. I don't know. So if you're finding that your heart shape is looking a little shaggy, then don't give up on it until you've given it a good trim, because sometimes when you trim it down further, it looks a little bit more compact. It gets the pieces kind of in the right spot. I don't know if you guys have watched very many Craftsy Lives, but my friend Emily Steffen oftentimes does projects involving pom-poms. She is another pom-pom lover just like me, and I have been thinking about her during this process because she loves pom-poms so much, and she's often wearing, even if she's not talking about pom-poms, she's usually wearing pom-poms as earrings. I'm going to show you my version of pom-pom earrings in just a minute here. But it was definitely Emily inspired. All right. I'll trim just a little more, and then I'm just going to have to make myself stop, even though it's going to be hard. But I'm sure you guys can imagine how trimming just a little more can help your shape, your pom-pom take shape just a little more. And sometimes you may find, like I've got this random strand down here. You might just be, you know, sometimes things kind of get moved when you are tying your pom-pom. But you can kind of dig in there with a yarn needle or a pair of, little pair of tweezers or something like that to kind of pull it into the right spot. And some of this is just, you know, haircut from the other color, which you have to kind of dust off when you're done giving it a haircut, so you don't have all those extra color contamination happening here. Anyway, so you guys get the idea. So how adorable is that? Super cute. So when I was working on this, I thought, oh, well, what could we do with pom-poms besides sew them onto hats? And I happen to have these little, let me move this out of the way here. These little clasps. This is like a bag charm that I made. So I had a little section of these little, I have lots of little clips and clasps and things like that, other kinds of hardware. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to just make like a little bag charm. So you can just have a little bit of, this would actually look really cute in a chain. That's what I actually really wanted, is a very short chain connecting it to the inside of the pom-pom, but I didn't have that, so I did a little tiny bit of a crocheted chain here to connect it to my clip, and I want to show you how I did that. Okay, so let's see. Here's my hardware. And then I just grabbed a chunk of the yarn that I used for the pom-pom and made it extra long. Okay, I'm doubling it as well just for sturdiness here. So it's probably about 2 yards long and folded in half. I'm gonna cut that off. Then I'm gonna start at the midpoint. Okay, so it's folded, 2 strands, and I'm going to make a slip knot right in the middle here, like that. And then I just started crocheting around, like just bringing this through actually here. Hold on a second. I'm gonna put this on my crochet hook, grab that little loop, pull it through, and then just make a very short chain. So this is very tight, and I'm doing this on purpose. You can get a larger hook. This probably is a little too small for 4 strands of yarn here, but it's the hook I have handy. So I'm just gonna do like maybe 3 chains to make those nice and tight, and then I'm gonna grab all those strands and pull through. And if you are not a crocheter, that's fine. You can just tie it on and do like a little short braid or something like that. You just need a little bit of length between your clip and these yarn strands. Okay, so we're going to be using these yarn strands to tie up our pom-pom. Okay, so we've just kind of basically added that clip on ahead of time. Okay, I've already pre-wrapped this because I didn't think you needed to see that again. Here's the boring side. And here's the fun side. I don't know if it's upside down or not because I wrapped this last night. We'll find out. always such a fun surprise. Like, who put that heart in there? Oh, that was me. Okay. All right, so there it is. There's our cute little heart beginning. And then we want to make sure that this clip is on the top of our pom-pom. We don't want to have our heart hanging upside down, right? That sounds sad. So I'm going to bring this right up in here. Bring this to the bottom. I'm very loosely just holding this in the groove right now until I actually start to tie this. And now I'm going to tie it really tight. And this is an acrylic yarn. It's a very sturdy. Oops, I kind of get my, there we go. My pom-pom mechanism was in the way. It needed to go in between those two pieces and it wasn't doing that, but now I think it's okay. All right, so tie that nice and tight and then bring it back up here to the top. And I'm going to tie this one more time because I do not want this opening up. That would be so sad. Okay. And tie one more knot. Okay, that should be good. Except that I can't stop. I'm going to tie one more time. I'm so paranoid about my pom-poms not staying. Okay, so now we can open this up. There we go. And pull it apart like that. You can see this pom-poms are looking a little shaggy, but that's okay. Once we trim that up, the heart is going to be much cuter. There we get that. And once we cut this down here, I know it's really shaggy right now, but you can see what we did was we attached that little tiny chain and used that to tie up our pom-pom. That way this is already anchored and it's like practically finished. It just needs its cute little haircut and then it's ready to go. So I wanted to show you one more option here. Let me just double check and see if I'm missing anything here. Oh, we've got a hello from Portugal. Hello. And Bookkeeper, great to see you in here. Thanks for the tutorial. Thank you, Bookkeeper73. And Twyla's here. Good morning from San Francisco Bay Area. Good morning. Hi, Twyla. And Connie says hello from Harbor Springs, Michigan, and Clara from Northwestern Florida. Hi, you guys. And Edie from Toronto, Canada. And let's see what we've got. Oh, it's so cool already. Awesome. It's a nice big puff. Yeah, it is fun. It's fun to see when you cut it open and it splays out. It's like the best. Okay. Oh, I never get the round shape to be round. Oh, Twyla does not like that part. That is the part that I love the most, is trimming and trimming and trimming. I don't know why. I get really obsessive about that. Okay. Twyla's saying you could add a string of floss to the yarn before putting on the ring to make it stronger. Hold on, let me think about that. String of floss to the yarn. Oh, I see. Okay, so you're holding the floss along with your yarn to make it stronger, right? Is that what you're saying? That's a really good tip. Because then you get the color of the yarn that you're using, or also for this, maybe you're talking specifically about this one, to add a little floss in there to make that very strong. And that's a really good idea. See, Wolfpack is saying my pom-poms always turn out like when I try to cut my own kid's hair. Awesome, I'm sure that's what you meant. They turn out fabulous. Okay, so let me talk about my next little idea. By little, I mean teeny tiny. So I'm making these little cute pom-pom earrings not for Emily Steffen, which is who I should be making them for, except she already probably has a million, so she probably doesn't really need them. But I'm making these for my niece. She really loves pom-pom earrings, and I wanted to surprise her with these cute little heart ones. So So really the only thing to think about when you're doing this, so I just used the tiniest pom-pom maker. Let me see, where did I put that? Okay, so here's my little pom-pom maker. It's already all done up in exactly, same way that I've been showing you. And then I took apart a little, let me see, where did the hardware go? Here it is, okay. So I have a little fish hook earring, and I attached it to a chain that I took apart from like a purse chain that I had, so I knew it'd be really nice and strong, but lightweight. And then I wanted to attach it to the pom-pom with this jump ring. Now, I feel like the very sturdiest way that you could do this is if you had, and I'm not sure what these rings are called when they're closed, like there's no join in it. If you had a ring like that, you could slide that onto your strand of yarn first before you tie off your pom-pom, and that would be like the sturdiest because your yarn wouldn't be able to go through in between the cracks of a jump ring, which is what I have here. It looks round. I mean, it looks like a complete circle, but it has a little crack in it. It's like the kind of jump ring that you split open and then add things into or whatever. So that's what I'm going to be using because that's what I had, and it actually is working fine for this earring. I tested it out and it's working just fine. But in a perfect world, if I was buying these for this project, I would buy a ring that is completely connected, and then I would thread the ring onto the yarn first, and then, and then wrap and tie and everything like that, and then add this to the jump ring, open up the last link on my chain here and attach it to the ring, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna do something similar to that, but this actually opens, so I'm gonna add this later, which is what I did for the other earring. So here's the boring side. And here's the fun side. Now we'll see how much this matches the first one because I did not do them in the same evening. It'd be better if you did your pom-poms one right after the other, then you would know exactly how thick you're making that heart and have exactly the same technique. I did not do that. So we will see what we get here when we open this up, but hopefully it'll be similar enough that it'll look like a pear. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm just gonna grab some strand of this. This is actually surprisingly strong. This is an acrylic with some kind of like monofilament in it or something. It's a number 2 yarn. I would probably suggest doing the embroidery floss once again here instead of this, but this is what I have that matches. It's gonna be fine. And I am going to leave that off for now, but if you had a completely closed ring, you could slide it on right away. And I'm going to go ahead and just tie this thing up. Making my little tie on the bottom and then tying it on the top. And I'll tie it one more time here. Okay. Okay. So you could, even if your jump ring is closed, you could, if your jump ring splits, if it's a split jump ring, I'm not sure if I'm using the correct terminology because I'm not a jeweler, but you could open that up and attach it to the end of here and then close it up and slide it onto your strands. But I was worried that I wouldn't get it on quite correctly and that it would when it was hanging from the earring that the heart would spin around backwards. So that's why I'm doing it this way. It might seem kind of like, why isn't she just putting that on there? It's just mostly because I'm worried that I'm gonna end up with the heart facing backwards. Here we go. Okay, and I apologize that this is so dark. I'm sure you guys cannot see this, but what I'm doing is I'm opening up the kind of like the hairs on the top of the pom-pom so I can see where I tied those strands, and I went around a few times so it's a nice, you know, I can actually see those strands that I used to tie the piece together. Let's see, where's my opening? There it is. Okay, so I just tilted them away from each other. When you're using jump rings like this, don't ever spread them apart from each other, because it is very hard to get them to touch. But if you twist them like that, then you can twist them back together and it's a lot easier. Okay. I'm just pushing that into those strands and grabbing those strands that I used to tie. All right, where did the end go? Oh, there it is. Okay, I see it. I don't know if you guys can see it, but the end popped out, and now I'm going to add the earring onto there, and this might take a couple of tries because I just want it to be facing the correct way. All right. Okay. Did it work? Yes, it worked pretty good. Now I know this looks like a disaster, right? This does not look very pretty, but the other one looked like this too. They both just needed a little bit of coaxing to become the heart that they are, and a mega haircut, because this is just such a little tiny pom-pom that when you wrap that many strands around it, it just gets very distorted. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna give it a little bit of a haircut. So if you guys have other ideas on how you could use these pom-poms, drop those in the comments. I'd be very curious to see what you guys think. I think it would make a cute little, like a hair accessory too for a little kid. Could put it on a little elastic tie. Oops, I cut that a little short there. Sometimes you have to be a little patient and kind of coax those little hairs into the right spot for these little tiny pom-poms here. Well, for any size pom-pom. All right. So I don't know if you guys saw this last year, but I did a Valentine's Day beanie project with Emily Steffen. Speaking of Emily Steffen again, I did a project with her last year around Valentine's Day, kind of a Valentine's Day theme. And in the background, you guys can see that I made this like a big garland out of these heart pom-poms and a bunch of tassels. And like a big, I think I did like a crochet chain to kind of hook everything together. But that during that live event, actually it was a 2-part series and I don't remember which live event it happened during, but it was during that Valentine's Day thing, that somebody asked me how to make the heart pom-poms that were in the background. So that's where this live event came about. And I'm sorry that it took me a whole year to get this done. I meant to do it earlier, but then, you know, I like to do things seasonally and the time had passed and I thought, okay, I'll just do it next year for Valentine's Day because it had already been months since then. But here we are. So I do really, I love your suggestions when you guys have suggestions for future projects or you want to learn something. I love that when you guys put that in the comments. Gives me lots of ideas. Okay, so that's looking better. I think it will continue to improve a little more if I trimmed it just a little bit more, but it's looking pretty good. Yeah, it definitely looks a little bigger than this one, but that's okay. I think when I trim it down a little bit, it'll help, actually. And then we'll have these adorable little heart-shaped pom-poms for Valentine's Day. Yay! All right, let me just check in here. Oh, a closed jump ring. Okay, so Ida's saying, I think she's saying that a closed jump ring is what it's called. Okay. Oh, we have a hello from Milan. Cool. Hello from Pennsburg, Pennsylvania. And hi, it's River from Newport, Oregon. Hi, River. Thanks you guys for saying hi and popping in here. I really appreciate that. Okay, so I hope I've given you guys some ideas for Valentine's Day. If you guys are looking for more ideas though, for like free patterns, like free crochet patterns and that sort of thing, a little bit more Valentine's Day information, I did do a blog post recently on the Creative Crochet Corner website. So if you go to the website and you click on resources, then you click on articles, you can see all of the blog posts and articles that I have written over the years, and there's lots of really good information in there. The most recent one was, you know, just some ideas on and free patterns for things that you can use from the website to make Valentine's Day gifts. So this was one of the things that you'll see this in the picture. I used the knotted baby hat, which was also a suggestion for one of our viewers to make this hat pattern. So I used this, and then I used this tiny little heart pattern that was from a previous Valentine's Day blog post on how to make a Valentine's Day card with these cute little crocheted hearts on it. And I combined them together to make a super cute little Valentine's Day hat. But there's lots of other ideas in there. If you guys want to check that out, like I said, it's on the Creative Crochet Corner website. Go to resources, go to articles, and then you can see there's lots and lots of links in there for free patterns and tutorials and that sort of thing. So, all right. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm glad that you guys were here. I hope you guys have a great Galentine's Day and Valentine's Day. And happy pom-pom making, everyone. Bye.